After thinking of 100 ways to get out of Cantonese, he finally decided to rely on painting to get away. First he used leftover fish bones as brushes. He used the paint on the wall as ink. Then with his superb talent of not forgetting anything, he drew a postage stamp that was a fake. Because he was a technician. As a technician of a counterfeit banknote syndicate, it's impossible for him to break out of prison by himself. So, he wrote a letter with the coordinates of this Thai prison, and put a forged stamp on the envelope. When the guards weren't looking, he threw it into the mailman's parcel. But unfortunately, no sooner had the letter been sent than a group of Hong Kong police found the prison. On the grounds that he was suspected of a major case, they extradited him back to Hong Kong. Inside the police station, the police didn't take any measures to detain the man. Instead, they uncuffed him and poured him a cup of hot tea. The purpose is very simple: to create psychological relaxation, in order to get the identity of the boss of the counterfeiting group, because not long ago, the counterfeit banknote syndicate killed an undercover police officer. The boss of the syndicate is too mysterious. The only information we could find was a picture of his back from a surveillance camera. However, the police just mentioned the name of the boss. The man who used to be emotionally stable suddenly became mentally unstable. He even collapsed and said that if the boss knew that he was being interrogated, then everyone present will definitely die. The man's ranting did not get the attention of the police, but luckily, 2 days later, the man's girlfriend received a letter of distress he had sent before. She chased him all the way from Thai prison to Hong Kong. Her name is Nguyen Van. She's a national treasure painter. He used his powerful connections and a team of lawyers to pressure the police. No matter what, they must take her boyfriend away today. The police are not interested in her boyfriend. Extradition back to Hong Kong is just to find out the whereabouts of the boss. So the police promised Wan, as long as her boyfriend told them about the boss, he'll be released on bail. He had no choice, so he told them everything: the horrifying and inhuman path of money printing. In 1985, Lee Mun and boss, the first time they met, he had been painting for 10 years. He was desperately poor. He had promised his girlfriend a happy life, but he couldn't even pay the electricity bill of his rented room. But it was at this stage, Nguyen Van's girlfriend was favored by a famous painter. Not only did he spend a lot of money to package Nguyen Van, he even held a solo exhibition for him. Nguyen Van wanted to take this opportunity to help Lee Mun out. Among the works in the exhibition, he quietly hung a pair of Lee Man's paintings. I didn't expect that in one afternoon, Nguyen Van's works were snapped up by everyone. Only Lee Man's painting was left, because if they were respected, they would be original. But Lee Mun liked imitations of famous paintings. His girlfriend consoled him. She advised him to go for originality. But suddenly, Lee Mun didn't feel sorry for himself or care about it. He even set fire to his favorite works. It turned out that halfway through the exhibition, a fellow painter approached Lee Mun. He said that no matter what, he said that anything that can be done to the extreme is art. Although your current imitation painting level is already at the highest level, but you still lack a stage to make money, because people are judged by their looks in this society. You have no status. Even if you wear a real brand name, you'll still be treated like an A-goods. So the best way is for us to work together. Let me, a man of status, sell your paintings for you. After listening to Lee Mun, he has already made his choice. He knows very well that painting student's motive for packaging his girlfriend is not pure. On the surface, it's to make money, but in fact, he was using his inferiority complex to force. He wants to break up with him to achieve the ultimate goal of digging up his girlfriend. The appearance of the painter, Lee Mun took it as a lifesaver. But when he gave up his girlfriend, he went to the painter to ask for a job. But the painter pulled out a US dollar and asked Mun to print it for him.
我叫吴福生，香港人，3代都是做假钞的，家族从来没有人做过牢，因为我们守行规，只做批发，买家都是当今有权有势的人，他们一直都很保护我们一家。 如果你不想跟我合作，就当没有见过。
The artist's implication is that if you agree to work with him, I'll protect you like a client protects me. But if you don't cooperate, I'll silence you so you'll never see me again. Lee Mun could only agree. You know what makes Chinese manufacturing great? For example, the new version of the US dollar at the top of the list. The portrait part of his face is 50% larger than the old one. There are more lines and details added. Even if you use the best printer to decode the portrait, the lines that come out would still be printed in a pattern of the ripples that you can only see visually, and there's microfont hidden throughout the note. Every stroke, with a subtle difference in thickness and length. Such a difficult security standard. Director Chuang Min-kung, who strives for authenticity, was in a dilemma, because the filming is about the criminal process of the counterfeit banknote gangs. Chuang Min-kung had to personally lead the team to study the production of counterfeit banknotes. It took half a year. In the end, he actually made the counterfeit banknotes. This large-scale film is the 2018 release of Wuxuang. Just like the images captured in the film, the only way to counterfeit the new version of the US dollar is to draw it by hand. From portraits to landscapes and flowers, from large fonts to the densely arranged combinations. If your hand shakes once, you'll have to start all over again, but these can be solved in time. What really worries the team is how to make the floating watermark hidden in the banknotes. You know that this thing is in the paper making process. When the paper is made, and the technology of paper making and raw materials are not something they can handle. Therefore, the gang leader painter has come up with a good idea.
如果我们先做好水印，然后用2张纸把它夹住，3张压成1张，那么就可以做出钞票水印的效果。
This is the most perfect method so far. So the artist started to ask for help. Finally, he found out that the leftover raw material from the old US banknote printing, a communications bureau used it to make an address book. It's about 1/3 the size of paper. The painter directly purchased 5 million tons. It's estimated that by the time he's caught, he might not even run out of paper. The artist knows that luck is only the basis of crime. What's more important is courage, because real banknotes require special color-changing ink. That's why the painter went to the Mexican cash van. First, he used a roadblock to stop it, then a few people with guns to fight head-on. They grabbed 2 barrels of color-changing ink. Before leaving, they also blew up the entire fleet of personnel at the scene. Our efforts were not in vain. The banknote printing has finally begun normal production. Every detail is a perfect 1:1 replica. A superb one. So the artist packed up the finished counterfeit notes in boxes. He traveled halfway around the world. When he presented the latest version of the fake American banknotes in front of each big client, the client's comment was that it was the real thing, but no one could have imagined. At this stage of great fortune, Lehman told the artist that he wanted to quit the team, because when the ink runs out, the painter will definitely kill and rob again, and he's just a part-timer. What's the point of playing with his life? The artist refused to let him go. He wants him to wait until the goods are sold out. Lehman doesn't want to sit around and wait for death. He believes that in this world, nothing is irreplaceable. When he saw a car sprayed with color-changing paint, he immediately investigated the manufacturer's formula. He found out that this kind of ink was used by the space agency to make color-changing glass. Then the project was scrapped. The formula was sold to a car paint factory. Lehman secretly bought a few barrels, together with Uncle Xin, who is also a technician in the team, disassembled the formula. We were able to get the ink for printing banknotes. When the painter found out, Lehman was given a resort hotel on the spot, and money he could never spend in his life. In fact, the painter had already prepared for Lehman, just for the promise he made at the beginning of the cooperation. Before joining the team, Lehman had a low self-esteem. His girlfriend wanted to be with him. She had to give up the opportunity to follow the painter, to go to the US to develop her career. Lee didn't want his incompetence to get in the way of his girlfriend. He finally broke up with her. Lehman thought that his love for love was the right choice for a man, but in the eyes of the painter, this choice should be another standard. The painter didn't work hard to make money for a woman, but to avenge his father's death. His father was killed by a warlord. So first, he negotiated with the warlord's men. Then he bought a lot of weapons. While trading with the warlord face to face, he took the warlord's lair with a team of accomplices. Lehman also gained something in the process. When he negotiated with the painter, he fell in love at first sight with the woman who checked the warlord's banknotes. Then he found out that the woman was having a hard time in the camp. So he rescued the woman himself, and because of his choice in the moment, That's why he's in a terrible situation. When you decide to be with another person, when you decide to go through life with another person, it's not meant to end well, just like this woman who was imprisoned by the warlord. She was in a firefight between a warlord and a counterfeit money syndicate. He accidentally set himself on fire. She was about to die. A member of the syndicate named Li Mun, a member of the syndicate, found him and risked his life and saved him. To the woman's surprise, he suffered extensive burns on his face. Normally, people who are not related to him would not care, but Li Mun overdrew a lot of money from the boss. He gave him facial repair surgery. For a woman, it's more precious than saving a woman's life. However, just when the woman Xiaoqing and Li Mun, after spending a whole year together, she found out that Li Mun had been thinking about his ex-girlfriend, Nguyen Van. Luckily, Nguyen Van had already married a painter, the boss of the counterfeit money syndicate. He also agreed to let Li Mun and Su Qing go on their way after the last transaction. Li Mun and Su Qing would be released to live a happy life together. But no one could have imagined. The client of the last deal was said to be a big shot, but no one in the industry had ever seen him before. The painter was uneasy, so he paid more attention, but he realized at a glance that the client was an undercover agent, because 3 months ago, Uncle Xin, an old man in the team, had just bought a batch of antiques. Uncle Xin bought a batch of antiques from abroad. However, a few days later, the painter saw this client in Uncle Xion's antique shop. He met this customer, rather than a one-in-a-million coincidence. He is more convinced that Uncle Xion used fake banknotes when buying antiques. That's why the police tracked them down. Uncle Xion has 3 generations of ancestors, all followed the syndicate to make counterfeit banknotes. He begged the painter to cut off his hands and forget about it. But the painter insisted on following the rules of the trade. In order to leave no trace, the painter burned the team's base to the ground. Then, under the guise of a deal, he asked the undercover cop to meet him and took care of him while he was at it. But the painter didn't stop there. He kidnapped Li Man's ex-girlfriend, Nguyen Van, and her husband, because now without Uncle Xin in the team, the only one who can be in charge of the money printing technology, Li Mun is the only one left. So he forced him to shoot Nguyen Van's husband, so that he would lose his rationality. Instead, he chose his selfish desire to be a villain, but Li Mun still couldn't do it.
一场兄弟，你拿枪指着我，有种开枪，一赔100万，我独立不敢。
Li Mun saved Nguyen Van. However, when the painter and his men were in the middle of the exchange of ammunition, Su Qing attacked them from behind. The machine gun controlling his partner killed the others. Li Mun also decided to shoot. He took the painter's last breath. Su Cheng dragged Li out of the hotel. She planned to live in seclusion. The artist gave Li the resort hotel, but she didn't expect the painter to survive, and killed Uncle Xion's family. When Li wanted to leave, it was too late. He was arrested by the police for using counterfeit money, but when he was about to get into the car, the person standing across the street was the painter. Li Mun gave a clear account of all this, and gave the police all the information he knew about the painter. He gave the police everything he knew about the painter. In the end, according to the bail conditions negotiated with Nguyen Van Ton was able to take Mun Li away. But on the second day after the bail, the police suddenly discovered the painter had entered the police station in disguise. The police immediately made an arrest. But after repeated checks, this person is really just a driver in the police force. What's going on here? The painter's identity was invented by Li Mun. The real mastermind is Li himself. That Nguyen Van who likes to paint. She's just Man's neighbor from abroad. He's had a crush on Ruan for a long time, but he's just a thief who's good at faking. So he never talked to Ruan. This inferiority complex made him think, as long as he had enough financial strength to be able to confess his love to Nguyen Van. In order to achieve this goal, Li Mun did whatever he could. The business of counterfeiting banknotes has become bigger and bigger. He killed as many people as he wanted. When he was negotiating with the warlord, he fell in love with Su Qing, who was controlled by the warlord. They both specialized in counterfeiting. They were also on the fringe of society. To Li Mun, Xiaoqing is more suitable than Nguyen Van, so he went out of his way to rescue her. He even made Xiaoqing, who had burns on her face, to make her look like Nguyen Van. But paper can't hold fire. Li Man's participation in Nguyen Van's exhibition. Xiaoqing found out. He can tolerate that Li Mun doesn't love him, but he couldn't accept himself being used as a stooge and double. So he kidnapped Nguyen Van and his wife to a hotel. He forced Mun to shoot and kill him. Of course, Li Men didn't agree, but he didn't realize the guns of his brothers around him were all pointed at him.